Hello singers, welcome to the Voice Blog. Today I want to talk about the position of the larynx. So, often you hear the emphasis towards low larynx exercises, and I've had a question regarding this. Why is it important? What's important about the position of the larynx? Well, the most important thing about the position of the larynx is that it remains consistent, specifically throughout an exercise and throughout a song generally. Now, different vowels will lean slightly towards a lower larynx or slightly towards a slightly higher larynx, but they're not necessarily healthy or unhealthy. So if I say nay, that's going to lend itself slightly more towards a slightly higher position than a b, for example. And that's okay. There's nothing unhealthy about those sounds if the larynx stays in a consistent position throughout the exercise. Any sound can be healthy at that point. The problem that we have is, as an intermediate singer, often people will manipulate or change the position of the larynx habitually, or for example throughout an exercise they might start the exercise with go, and that might change to go at the top. It might start to turn into a yell. The vowel starts to modulate slightly and change, and this doesn't need to happen. So if you start an exercise with go, it needs to say go all the way through. If you can say go all throughout the exercise, or nay, or buh, or mum throughout the exercise, and keep it pure, just mum all the way, then the larynx will be staying in the same place. And this is why it's so important to pay attention to what type of sound you're making. So if for example I went mum 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 mama 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 mama. I'm keeping it mum. I'm not going mama mama. I'm not going at the top. I'm going ma. Mama 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 mama. You get the idea. So, if we can keep the vowel consistent throughout an exercise, it's an extremely good indicator that the larynx is staying in a consistent position. Pay attention to that during your exercises. Now, why will the larynx change position? Well, more often than not, it's because the swallowing muscles, which you can feel if you swallow and put your thumb under there, start to activate. If the swallowing muscles are starting to activate, the larynx will naturally start to come up. And it will come up more than, for example, if I go b and then I go na, na is slightly higher, but it's very marginal. It's not a huge difference. But if I am activating those swallowing muscles, the larynx will start to really hike up, and eventually I'll just feel like everything's clamping down. So, if you keep that vowel consistent and you pay attention to these swallowing muscles, you start to develop a relationship with what's happening when you vocalize, and you can start to address any issues you have with the consistent placement of the larynx. In and of itself, a high larynx or a low larynx isn't unhealthy. If I can do a neigh exercise, or even a really whiny neigh, like neigh neigh neigh, I can do that all the way up and down, or I can do a buh 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 all the way up and down. If I do it in the right way, none of it's going to hurt me. The reason that people are directed towards a low larynx exercise is because they have the tendency to bring that larynx up. They have the tendency to activate these swallowing muscles, and if somebody's forced to go goo 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 all the way, or even less dopey than that, just goo goo goo, if someone's forced to do that, it counteracts the tendency, because it's impossible to say goo with a high larynx, because as soon as it goes higher, you go goo 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 ga. It's not possible. If you just keep it goo 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 goo. You can only have goo with a low larynx. As soon as it starts to say ga ga, then you know you're in trouble. It's a clear indicator. Whereas if I go na, it's harder to distinguish. If I go na 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 na, it's harder to distinguish between when the larynx is coming up and when it's just up anyway, because the nay or the na is generally a slightly higher position. So I hope that's answered some questions for you. You can link to my website below, and hope you have a good day, guys. Take care. See you soon. Bye.